After suffering a concussion against Florida State, one social media post is giving fans hope that star wide receiver Ryan Williams will play this Saturday at ULM. Stick around. Let's talk about it. This is Way Offsides. 3, 2, let's go. Hey, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever the case may be. Welcome to your favorite Alabama talk show on YouTube, Way Offsides. That's way with 4 A's. Three's not enough, five's too many, as Bill would say. Four, just like in the word Alabama. Some good news right out of the gate. Bill will be back here in about a week. We have released him from the dungeon. You guys did your part. Lots of subs, but now Jay Will has taken his place. Now Jay Will has been out and about on the road checking out high school football games and all of Alabama's recruits in action, but at least within the region, right? Fair enough. But he hasn't been doing a great job. And so we put him in the dungeon now. And so we're relying on you once again. It's early. We're relying on him once again, or you once again, to release J Will. So unspecified number of subscriptions to the YouTube channel. Hit the notification bell, throw a big like on this video, and leave a big old roll tide down in the comments section below. Let me know where you're watching from. We are going to talk about Ryan Williams today. Everybody loves to talk about Ryan Williams, despite the fact that since the Georgia game, he has been a non-mother factor for Alabama football. It's been weird. I have been preaching since the end of last season that the guy in Alabama's receiving core is Jeremy Bernard. That did show up against FSU. I was wrong about Justin Jefferson. I'll eat my crow, but I was right about Jeremy Bernard, so it offsets. That's the way this works. Ryan Williams, star wide receiver for Alabama. Alabama's offensive coordinator and Kalen DeBoer decided to try some different things. Leading into the season, Ryan Williams said he was excited because they were moving him around, trying to use him differently than they did last year. Well, they used him in the slot a lot against FSU, and it was ugly, to say the least. I don't know that some of this is Ryan Williams' fault. I think some of this was maybe uncomfortability with being in the slot. Some of it was him being a little undersized. He's a scrawnier guy. But it wound up with him getting licked right across the middle of the field by Earl Little Jr. in what looked to be an apparent concussion. There is some speculation amongst fans out there that it was more of a pride injury than anything, but we're not going to speculate on that because concussions are not funny, and it's not something we want to take lightly with anybody. But he has been in a black non-contact jersey all practice week. Folks have seen him out there. He's been practicing, but he's been in that no-contact jersey. However, yesterday, a social media post on his Instagram kind of sparked some interest into what it meant and what it could mean leading into Saturday as Alabama looks to right the ship, correct the wrongs, and get back to the standard when Louisiana Monroe comes to town. Now, the Instagram post in question, well, it's this. It was him catching a football with his Beats headphones on, and it just said, "Thank you, Jesus." That's it. That's all he had to say, and the internet went bonkers. Absolutely crazy. I don't know, honestly, what this means. I don't want to think too much into it. It could mean that, yes, he's been cleared to play this week. It could just mean that he's thankful to Jesus for something. We should be thankful to Jesus for everything, right? I don't know. I don't know. Personally, I think if he's dinged up at all, he doesn't need to play this weekend, along with some other guys. We know Jeremiah Beeman's out for the season. Tim Keenan likely will make a return against Wisconsin next week. I kind of expect Jam Miller to maybe be in that boat, or at worst case scenario for Jam Miller, Georgia. Jaden Roberts has been practicing again, although he's practicing with the twos and not the ones. Gino Vandermark did pretty well at FSU. Him and Parker Brailsford looked solid, as opposed to the rest of the line. Wilkin Formby had a rough going. Caden Proctor had a really rough going. Cam Dewberry wasn't terrible. But I would imagine that if he does play Saturday, they are certainly going to use him different. Using him in the slot did not work. I do think that there's the potential that with Isaiah Horton kind of getting dinged up, there was the potential that they moved Williams over there. I can't remember, to be honest, off the top of my head. I can't remember if he started the game there or not. I don't think so. But Isaiah Horton being the bigger body wide receiver. So I don't know. I personally, for me, this is just my opinion. I'm not the coach. I'm not the one that gets to make this decision. I wouldn't play the kid this weekend. I don't care about stats. He's got another full season somewhere, hopefully at Alabama. So I'm not too concerned with the stats. But really, I mean, the bigger question is how much of a difference maker right now is Ryan Williams? We did a video a few weeks ago and discussed the potential for a sophomore slump. But Williams really kind of went into a slump last season. Now, that's not necessarily his fault. A lot of defenses keyed in on him. And once they kind of got him wrapped up, Jalen Milroe struggled to get the ball to other receivers. He started to develop some rapport with Jeremy Bernard late in the season. He was throwing to Josh Cuevas a little bit. We saw that same thing happen in the FSU game on this weekend. Williams did have the one explosive TD potential, but the ball was overthrown a little bit. And so, Ty Simpson wasn't necessarily doing him any favors, but I expect Ty to get a little bit better. We're giving him a little bit of grace. A little bit, Ty. You hear me? Ty Simpson played fine, but Ryan Williams was very out of character in this game, dropping balls. He only had 5 receptions for 30 yards, 0 touchdowns. And honestly, since the Georgia game of last year, that spectacular showing, he's been a little quiet. And so I know that Alabama wants to utilize him to his full potential. They want him to really shine as he should, because he is a very, very talented. He's the second best wide receiver in college football, right behind Jeremiah Smith. So I don't know. I don't know that he's going to play this weekend. I think there's the potential. I feel like coming off of a concussion, if Alabama plays him Saturday and puts him in the slot, that's going to say more about the coaching than anything else, because I just feel like that's not a good idea. You know what I mean? The potential for injury. And this is a guy that you really need moving forward. Now, I know a lot of you guys have had it with the painted fingernails and the dinosaur. Listen, those things are not really impacting the game as much as you think they are. They're not. The painted fingernails is the thing he does for his sister. I'm not keen on dudes painting their fingernails, but whatever. We don't know what the dinosaur thing is. I'm trying to think of this outside of the box and outside of the scope of just being frustrated and pissed off like most people are. We don't know what the dinosaur is. Jeff and I were kind of talking like, what if this was a gift from a fan or, a kid or something like that? We don't, and the entire fan base is sitting here calling him, derogatory words or using words in a derogatory way to describe him because of it. Everybody has their opinions, but in terms of Ryan Williams, it doesn't take, none of that takes away from his talent. Now, I do think that there have been some off-field distractions. He does a lot of streaming. The New Wave podcast has probably presented some challenges in terms of staying focused on what's in front of him, staying focused on making the thing, right? And so, earlier in the week, the Twitch count goes away. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But I think if he plays, it'll probably be on a limited snap count. You don't want to risk getting him injured. You're going to need him in a couple of weeks. Alabama's going to get pretty much everybody back outside of Jeremiah Beaman, knock on wood, assuming there's no other injuries, for the Georgia game when they go to Athens. Now, Alabama hasn't looked good on the road, but you bring a guy like Jam Miller back, you bring Tim Keenan back, 2 vocal leaders on your offense and defense, 2 Nick Saban guys. Things could potentially start to look up and a little different, potentially. So, Ryan Williams is another one of those guys you just don't want to lose, right? You don't want to lose him to a season-ending injury. Now, injuries, let's talk about that for a second. But before we do, just want to remind you, please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Leave a big roll tide down in the comment section below. I want to hear your thoughts on how important Ryan Williams is to this team as well. But injuries is another thing that kind of scares me with Alabama football. We have seen a lot of injuries in practice. That first game, dudes were getting dinged up what felt like left and right. LT Overton, Isaiah Horton. At some point in time, we got to look at this strength and conditioning coach and go, what gives? Because really, in terms of injuries, Alabama hasn't looked the same as they did in the past. They look a lot softer in a sense of strength, even speed on the defensive side, which is concerning. Chris pointed out that, Scott Cochran definitely had his issues with player injuries, but in terms of the team and how they looked and how aggressive they were, that kind of fell off when Cochran left Alabama. So Blue's got big shoes to fill there. And they got to figure something out. They do. Physical practice is great. I get the I'm gonna say theology. I get the philosophy behind physical practice, but at what point are you hindering your team? And it seems like Alabama. Now, I will say some of those injuries I think last year or last week were frustration. Some of it was this is ridiculous. I'm going to go sit and compose myself for a minute, which is not ideal either. So take it or leave it. But let me know what you think. Will Ryan Williams play this weekend? Yes or no? Maybe so. Where we stop? Nobody knows. Like I said, leave a big roll tide down there in the comment section below for me. FSU week is over. We are moving forward. Everything that Alabama wants to do is still in front of them, but they've got a lot to fix to get there. Thanks for sticking around with me. As always, say your prayers, read your Bibles, wash your hands. I'm Cotton, and this is Way Offsides. Horns down, baby. Beat Auburn and LSU and Tennessee to Roll Tide.